In the beginning, there was no sound, no shape, no time, no place to call a place. The universe, as we now know it, had not yet exhaled. It was not even a whisper, only stillness beyond silence and darkness deeper than anything we've ever imagined. Scientists call this moment the singularity, a point of infinite density where all the matter, energy, and space we now see was once pressed into something smaller than a grain of sand. There were no stars, no galaxies, not even atoms. Just potential, quiet and curled inward, like breath held for 1,000 eternities. Then something changed. We do not know why. Maybe it was simply time for the silence to end. Maybe the universe, like a seed, was always meant to grow. In an instant, less than a blink, less than a thought, that singular point began to expand. Not into space, but as space. It wasn't an explosion in the way we think of fire or sound, but a swelling of existence itself. This moment is called the Big Bang, though the name is misleading. There was no bang, no sound, because there was nothing yet to carry sound. Just a sudden unfolding, a bloom of energy and time. And with it, the first breath of the universe. The newborn universe was unimaginably hot and bright. For the first moments, mere fractions of seconds, it was nothing but pure energy, churning and rippling through the fabric of space. Everything moved fast, expanding and cooling all at once. As the seconds passed, the energy relaxed just enough to allow the birth of particles, quarks, gluons, photons, flickering into being like the first sparks of a cosmic fire. These particles were the seeds of everything to come, though they had no shape, no form we could yet recognize. Still, they were enough. Soon, quarks began to join together, pulled by the invisible strings of nature's laws. They formed protons and neutrons, the building blocks of atoms. This, too, was a quiet dance, done in the heat and blur of a universe just seconds old. These protons and neutrons would drift, collide, cling. Some would stay together, forming the earliest nuclei. But they were still alone, still missing something: electrons. For now, the universe was too hot for electrons to settle. They zoomed through space like bees without a hive, too full of energy to pause. It would take hundreds of thousands of years before things cooled enough for atoms to form, but already the shape of everything was beginning to take hold. The universe continued to expand. It continued to cool. As it did, energy became matter and matter began to gather. Gravity, quiet and patient, started to do its work. It pulled on the tiniest clumps of gas, drawing them ever closer. These clumps would become stars. Stars would become galaxies. Galaxies would become the architecture of the cosmos. But we are still at the beginning, still in the first breaths. After about 3 minutes, something beautiful happened. The first atomic nuclei were formed, mostly hydrogen with a little helium and traces of lithium. This mixture, simple as it sounds, is the origin of everything you see today. Your blood, your bones, the oceans, the stars, all made possible because hydrogen became the alphabet of matter. And it all began in that first moment of light. Yet for a long while after, the universe remained dark. This period, called the Cosmic Dark Ages, stretched for hundreds of millions of years. The energy was still too scattered, the particles still too free. There were no stars yet to shine, only the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, which we now see as the cosmic microwave background. If you could float through space then, there would be no light, no warmth, only hydrogen drifting in the quiet, pulled slowly together by gravity's invisible hand. And then, after waiting patiently in the darkness, stars were born. The first stars, massive, hot and wild, ignited like celestial lanterns in the black. Their light rushed outward, touching everything, waking the universe from its slumber. These stars began the long process of shaping the elements, fusing hydrogen into helium and helium into heavier things like carbon and oxygen. They lived fast and died young, exploding in spectacular supernovae that scattered their contents into space. And with those scattered pieces, new stars could form, and eventually, planets and moons and oceans and life. It is strange to think that the breath you just took might contain atoms forged in those first stars, that the calcium in your bones was once born in a star's death, that the iron in your blood was flung from the heart of a supernova. We are not just in the universe, we are of it. We are made of the same pieces that filled the first breath, cooled into particles, gathered into light. And though we may seem small, each of us carries within a map of the beginning. So much of this story remains a mystery. What caused the Big Bang? What was before it? Is there even such a thing as before, when time itself began with that breath? These questions drift in the space between facts, not fully answered but fully felt. And maybe that's what makes them beautiful, not because they are easy, but because they remind us how much there is still to wonder. How vast the beginning was, how quiet, and how everything we know, everything we love, began with that first impossible moment, when nothing became something, and silence became the song of the stars. Now imagine the young universe, fresh with starlight, still stretching, still cooling, still forming itself like clay turning slowly beneath invisible hands. The first stars, fierce and enormous, burned blue and white, their lives measured not in billions of years but in brief cosmic flickers. They did not last long, yet what they gave was lasting. They scattered the building blocks of life. Their light poured across the darkness, chasing shadows that had reigned for eons. As these first stars collapsed, they left behind black holes, neutron stars, or scattered themselves entirely into clouds of dust and light. And out of that dust, new stars began to emerge, smaller, longer-lived, gentler. Stars like our sun. These new stars gathered gas and gravity around them, forming swirling disks of dust, spinning slowly in circles. And in those disks, something delicate unfolded. Tiny grains of rock and ice clumped together, little by little, drawn by soft collisions and gentle pulls. These were the beginnings of planets. Our Earth began this way, quietly in a cloud of cosmic dust. There was no thunder, no fanfare. Just particles, pulled together over millions of years, until one became many and many became one. A world. Earth was not always kind. In its early years it was wild and molten, pummeled by asteroids wrapped in storms of fire. Volcanoes split the crust and gases thickened the air, but the planet cooled. Rain fell. Oceans pooled. And in that water something began to stir. We do not know exactly how life began, whether it came from sparks of lightning, deep-sea vents, or something even more mysterious, but we know it came early. Perhaps as soon as the Earth could hold water, life was already trying to bloom. Tiny cells, no larger than dust, multiplied in warm seas. They did not have eyes or mouths or thoughts, but they carried something even more powerful, the code of life, written in molecules. DNA began whispering instructions from one generation to the next. With it came memory, variation, and slow, unending change. Over time, these single-celled creatures gave rise to more complex forms. Some learned to breathe sunlight, to take light and turn it into energy. These were the cyanobacteria, and they changed the sky. They released oxygen at first, a poison to most life, but eventually a gift. The sky turned blue. The air grew richer, and life began to stretch out from water to land, from soft bodies to bones, from crawling to walking to wandering. And all of this, every leap, every turn, every loss and triumph, was shaped by the same forces that once pulled atoms together in the early universe: gravity, time, chance, and light. But let us step back for a moment and drift beyond Earth again, beyond its blue skin and green breath, out past the moon, past the red dust of Mars, past the rings of Saturn and the frozen edge of Neptune, into the great darkness that surrounds our solar system like an ocean without end. Here, space turns quiet again. But even in that quiet, things move. There are comets, long-haired wanderers with icy hearts, tracing paths laid down billions of years ago. There are rogue planets, alone and adrift. And there are stars, so many stars, each one a sun, each one a story. Some stars are newborn, still wrapped in swaddles of dust. Others are in their middle years, burning steadily like our sun. And some are ancient, swollen into red giants or shrinking into white dwarfs. The universe is full of these stories, of light being born, aging, fatting, of planets circling patiently, of gravity holding things close and sometimes letting go. There are galaxies, too, spinning like giant pinwheels, made of hundreds of billions of stars. And between them, vast stretches of nothing. But even in that nothing, there is something, dark matter, invisible and strange, shaping the cosmos from behind a veil we still cannot lift. We are only beginning to understand what this universe is made of. Most of it we cannot even see. The matter we know, our bodies, the trees, the oceans, the planets, makes up just a tiny fraction of what exists. The rest is dark matter and dark energy, mysterious, quiet forces that push and pull at the universe's edge. Dark energy, in particular, is thought to be responsible for the universe's accelerated expansion. As if, instead of slowing down, the universe is stretching faster and faster, running away from itself in every direction. And so we drift, on a planet that spins beneath stars, inside a galaxy that swirls, inside a universe that grows. The more we look outward, the more we learn not just about the stars but about ourselves. We discover that time, too, is not as simple as it seems. That gravity bends light. That clocks tick differently in mountains than they do in valleys. That space and time are woven together, like threads in a single, shimmering cloth. This fabric curves, stretches, even ripples when great things move, like black holes merging or stars exploding. These ripples, called gravitational waves, travel through space like whispers through a vast room. And now, for the first time, we can hear them. We can hear the universe not with ears, but with instruments tuned to the deepest vibrations. We can see back in time by looking far enough into space, because light takes time to travel. When we peer through telescopes, we are not just seeing stars, we are seeing memories. A galaxy 1 billion light-years away is a galaxy as it was 1 billion years ago. A kind of cosmic photograph, taken before there were cameras, before there were eyes. Everything we see is history. Everything we touch is stardust. The carbon in our bodies, the oxygen we breathe, the calcium in our teeth, all forged in stars, scattered by time, gathered by gravity. We are not separate from the universe. We are part of its unfolding, a quiet echo of its first breath, still moving, still wondering. And as we explore deeper, as we send our probes and questions into the dark, we are really trying to remember something, to remember where we came from. To remember that the universe is not out there. It is here, inside us, around us, beneath every step and behind every breath. Because the story of the cosmos is not just stars and galaxies. It is the story of how something came from nothing, how light found form, and how silence gave rise to song. It is the story of how, in a universe made mostly of emptiness, wonder still fills every corner. Now drift with me one last time beyond stars, beyond science, beyond all the names we've given to the sky. Let's return not to the beginning, but to this very moment, to the breath you just took, to the beating heart inside your chest, to the tiny atoms that make you, that once burned in the core of a star, that once floated freely when the universe was new. Everything you are is old. Older than the mountains, older than the oceans, older even than Earth. The particles that hum inside you now have traveled far, have waited long, and somehow, impossibly, they have come together to make you. This is not poetry. This is physics. This is the soft truth hidden inside all the science we've explored. You are not just made of stardust, you are made of history. Your body is a map, and each cell carries the memory of creation. The iron in your blood remembers the fire of supernovae. The calcium in your bones remembers the swirling of ancient clouds. The water in your eyes once rained from comets, once danced in the icy rings of planets, once steamed from the cracks of young Earth. You are not outside the story. You are the story, walking, breathing, wondering. Every thought you have is electricity. Every dream is chemistry. Every tear is gravity pulling you back to Earth while your spirit gazes at the stars. And as you lie under the night sky, as you look up at constellations that seem frozen in place, remember this: even the stars are moving. The sky is not still. The universe is not resting. Galaxies rush away from each other, pulled by dark energy, stretched by the expansion of space itself. Some stars will live for trillions of years, slow burning and quiet. Others will end in violent flares, leaving behind black holes that bend the very fabric of time. And all of it, every motion, every pause, every silence, is part of the same great unfolding. Scientists now believe the universe will continue expanding forever. that the galaxies will drift farther and farther apart, their light growing fainter, their voices quieter. Someday the stars will die. The skies will go dark again. The black holes will swallow what they can, and then even they will fade. This is not a sad ending. It is simply a change, a return to silence, a deep cosmic sleep. The universe, it seems, is not rushing anywhere. It is breathing, growing, fading, all in its own time. And we, brief as our lives are, get to be part of it. We get to look up, to wonder, to learn, and to love. In the future, perhaps someone else, on another world beneath another sun, will ask the same questions we do now. Where did we come from? Why are we here? What makes this emptiness so full of meaning? They may look at our sun, pale and distant, and wonder if anyone ever lived near that quiet light. And if they listen carefully, maybe they will hear something. Not a voice, not a sound, but a pattern, a trace, a soft echo of everything we are. Because information does not vanish. The things we do, the choices we make, the energy we release, they ripple outward, into space, into time. We are woven into the fabric of the universe, not just through matter, but through motion, through memory. The way you smiled today, the warmth of your hand, the spark of your thought, these are real. They shape the future gently, invisibly, like wind over water. And just as the Big Bang left its glow behind, so too do we leave behind a kind of light, a quieter one, but still there. And that's the great secret hidden in the stars, that even in all this vastness you matter, not because you are large, but because you are part of something larger. You are not the center of the universe, but you are its witness. You are its memory. You are the eyes through which it sees itself, the mind through which it understands, the heart through which it feels. And in all the science we know, in all the theories and numbers and equations, there is nothing more beautiful than that. So tonight, when the sky darkens and the stars appear one by one, let yourself be still. Let yourself drift back, not to the chaos, not to the noise, but to the breath, the first one, the silent swell of everything. Let yourself remember that you are ancient and young and full of light, that even in the quiet there is movement, even in the darkness there is warmth, and even in the endless, endless sky there is home. The cosmic tour never ends. It simply circles, from light to dust, from dust to thought, from thought to wonder. We are stardust dreaming of stars, and in that dream we find everything. We find time, we find meaning, we find each other, and we find that the universe was never far away. It was always here, beneath your skin, behind your eyes, and waiting in the next breath. Beneath your skin, beneath your breath, beneath the pulse you feel but cannot name, there is a quiet lineage older than the mountains, older than the moon. It lies not in stories, but in atoms, in tiny, ancient pieces of matter that once burned in the hearts of stars. Your body is not merely alive. It is cosmic. It is stitched together from dust that traveled across light years, paused in clouds of gas, and danced in solar winds before finally resting in the soft miracle of your bones, your blood, your brain. Every heartbeat is a rhythm passed down from stars. Every breath you draw is threaded with the memory of explosions older than Earth. The story begins in a furnace, a star burning hot and bright somewhere in the early universe. These stars, older than any planet, were the first forges of heavy elements. In their cores, hydrogen was squeezed until it became helium. And in time, even helium grew heavy enough to become carbon, and then oxygen, and then iron. But the stars could not hold forever. When their cores became too heavy, too crowded, the pressure broke. The stars collapsed inward and then burst outward in a supernova, a colossal, quiet scream of light and matter. In that final breath, in that fierce death, they made the elements that would one day become everything else. Iron was one of them. The very element that flows through your veins, giving your blood its red color, was born in that fire, not metaphorically, not poetically, literally. Every atom of iron inside you came from a dying star. The calcium in your teeth, the oxygen in your lungs, the phosphorus in your DNA, all born from the same stellar crucibles, all carried across the black silence of space, floating, waiting until they could become part of something new, part of a planet, part of a tree, part of you. When Earth was young, it was a violent place, volcanic, molten, raw. But even in that chaos, the seeds of life had already arrived, carried by meteorites perhaps, or formed in Earth's oceans from the heavy elements left behind by stars. Life grew in slow waves, simple cells at first, then more complex creatures, until eventually something stirred that could think, could feel, could look up at the sky and wonder where it came from. And without knowing it, the answer was always there, shining quietly in the night. Every star above is family. Every light is a reminder. Inside your blood, iron atoms move with purpose. They bind with oxygen in your lungs, carry it to every cell in your body, and return with carbon dioxide to be exhaled. This simple rhythm, inhale-exhale, is sustained by a structure forged billions of years ago in a star's death. Your heart beats because of it. Your brain thinks because of it. Without iron, life as we know it would flicker out. And yet we often forget. We see blood as ordinary. We call it red, warm, vital, but we forget it is cosmic, that it was once starlight, that it still is. If you could trace a single atom of iron in your body back through time, it would tell a story older than language. It would remember drifting through nebulae, resting in dust clouds, joining other atoms to become planets, rocks, rivers, and eventually cells. And now it carries you. That atom is not aware. It has no thoughts, but in a way you are its thought. You are the complexity it helped build. You are the shape that stardust has taken this time around. And you are not alone. Every person, every bird, every tree shares in this cosmic heritage. We are all made of the same dust. The difference is arrangement, not origin. In your bones and in the roots of ancient forests lie the same atoms recycled through time, passed from star to planet to body to soil. The stars did not just create life, they created connection. They made a single thread that ties all living things together. The blood of stars runs through all of us, quietly and without question. Now imagine that blood moving, through capillaries so narrow that red blood cells must twist to pass, through the vast arteries that feed your brain, your limbs, your heart. Each drop carries oxygen to feed your fire. Each atom of iron within it holds the weight of starborn memory. This is not mythology. This is biology. And yet it is also poetry, the soft blending of science and soul. Because to know this is to feel something shift inside. To feel the universe become smaller, more personal, more alive within you. And still the stars are making more. Even now, out in the darkness, stars are dying and being born. Supernovae still send iron into the void. Nebulae still birth new suns. The process never stopped. The cycle continues with no beginning and no end. And perhaps someday the atoms that now make you will return to that great forge. Perhaps they will ride a comet, rest in a cloud, or become part of something new, a mountain, a tree, another heartbeat. There is comfort in this, in the knowledge that we are not separate from the universe but completely entwined with it, that death is not disappearance but transformation, that your body is borrowed, not owned, and that when it is returned, the atoms will find new forms, new stories, perhaps even new dreams. The stars give and they take and they give again. And through it all, they leave behind this quiet truth that you are not small, you are infinite in pieces, you are not random, you are remembered. So when you feel tired or lost or unimportant, remember your blood. Remember the iron. Remember that you are the aftermath of a star's farewell. And that even now, as your heart beats, the universe listens, not with ears but with energy. It listens and it remembers you. Let's drift deeper into the quiet river of your veins, past the hum of cells, into the mineral memory of life itself. Each molecule of hemoglobin, the protein in your red blood cells, holds 4 iron atoms nestled at its heart like sacred coins. This tiny cluster allows it to bind with oxygen, to catch the breath you take and carry it through your body like a whispered promise. These iron atoms are not recent arrivals. They are elders of your form, forged billions of years before your skin first felt the warmth of sunlight. They are travelers, pilgrims, pieces of a star that once burned bright in a galaxy perhaps not so far from here, whose death echoed through space long before Earth cooled. That star does not shine anymore, but its echo moves inside you still, with every breath, every step, every sigh. We often speak of evolution as a story of animals and bones, of fish growing legs or primates walking upright. But the story runs deeper. Beneath that visible change is the quiet collaboration of chemistry, the slow inheritance of elements. Iron, though only a trace mineral in your body, is essential to the machinery of life. Without it, there would be no breath, no energy, no thought. In your cells, iron helps build enzymes that repair DNA, synthesize hormones, and turn food into fuel. But it is humble, hidden. Not in the spotlight like carbon or oxygen, but always working behind the curtain, like a thread that holds the fabric together, unnoticed but essential. And iron does not work alone. Other elements born in stars join it in this sacred task. Calcium, glowing white in the bones of stars, now rests in your skeleton, strong and quiet. Phosphorus, essential for life's spark, pulses in your nerves and fuels your brain. Even the zinc in your tears, the copper in your skin, the sodium in your sweat, each has a cosmic story, each a chapter in the slow writing of your form. Together, they are not just the ingredients of life, they are its inheritance. And the recipe is written not in books, but in the stars. The story of blood is the story of movement, of flow, of journey. Your blood travels nearly 12,000 miles through your body each day, flowing through a vast network of vessels that stretches farther than any river on Earth. And yet, in that quiet loop, it holds the secrets of galaxies. It remembers things you never saw. It connects your mind to your muscles, your lungs to your toes, your thoughts to your cells. All of it bound by the presence of iron, one of the most ancient and generous elements the universe has ever made. It's easy to forget this. Easy to see the body as separate from the stars, to live as if we are just passengers on this planet. But inside you, the universe continues. The heat in your hands is the same kind of energy that powered the first stars. The sparks in your brain, electrical signals leaping from neuron to neuron, are cousins to the lightning that lit Earth's early skies and to the plasma storms that swirl on the surface of the sun. You are not simply living in a universe. You are a continuation of it, a quiet ripple, a starlit echo with skin. Even your emotions, your joys and fears, your memories and dreams, are shaped by these elements. Your brain, an intricate web of neurons, relies on iron to build neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. These chemicals shape your thoughts, your moods, your ability to feel happiness or sorrow. So in a way, even love is a gift from the stars. Even grief is written in stardust. These emotions, so deeply human, are also deeply cosmic. They rise from molecules born in the collapse of a dying sun. Some of the iron in your body is recycled. When a red blood cell dies, after about 120 days, its iron is carried back to your bone marrow where new blood is made. This cycle continues every moment of your life. Your body, like the universe, does not waste. It reuses, reshapes, rewrites. What was once part of your heart may someday be part of your breath. What is now your breath may one day become the heartbeat of someone else, somewhere else, long after you are gone. Now imagine the Earth itself, cradling this iron within. In the planet's core, iron flows like liquid fire, creating a magnetic field that shields life from the harsh winds of space. Without it, Earth would be barren, bombarded by solar radiation. No life could have flourished. No breath could have survived. The same element that protects our world also pulses inside our bodies like a mirror, like a shared language between planet and person. And if we go deeper still, beyond biology, beyond geology, we find that iron has helped shape human history too. It was one of the first metals we learned to use. From swords to plows, from bridges to engines, iron has carried our dreams across oceans and into the sky. But even in its strongest form, in beams and rails and tools, it is still the same stardust, just reshaped, just remembered. There is a kind of reverence in this, a quiet awe, not of something mystical but of something real. To hold a nail, to tap a skillet, to feel your pulse, these are not separate things. They are chapters of one long story, written in iron, read by stars, passed on through time like whispers. And in knowing this, in remembering this, the world softens. It grows wider, kinder, deeper. You see yourself not as a separate spark but as part of the flame. Because in the end, the iron in your blood is not just science. It is a poem, a note left by the universe in the very fabric of your being. And it sings, even now, even quietly, of where you come from, of what you are made of, and of how nothing, not even stardust, is ever truly lost. Let's follow that stardust one final time, not just as it flows through your body, but as it leaves it, as it returns to the earth, as it waits again for its next chapter. Because everything that lives must one day change form. Bones will return to soil, breath will return to air, and the iron, the stardust in your blood, will not vanish. It will go back into the cycle that shaped it long before your name was ever spoken. Perhaps it will settle into the roots of a tree, helping it grow taller toward the sun. Perhaps it will slip into a river and ride the current to the sea. Or maybe, far in the future, it will be lifted once again into the sky by fire or by flight or by the long, slow lift of time, and drift outward into space once more. This is not an end. This is the rhythm of matter, the quiet return of what was borrowed, and in this return is a kind of peace. The stars gave you these atoms freely. They asked for nothing in return, and now in giving them back you become part of something larger, not just a memory but a possibility, not just dust but the blueprint of another life waiting for a spark. Just as you were once part of another form, another creature, another world, you too will be reshaped, rewritten, reimagined by time. And so we come to the quiet truth that all things share the same origin. The stars, the soil, the fire in your chest, they all arose from the same raw material. It is not simply that you are made of stardust. It is that everything is. There is no line between the cosmic and the earthly, between the sacred and the ordinary. A rock in a garden may carry the same elements as a star. A grain of sand may once have spun through space as part of a comet's tail. The world is not separate from the sky. It is a continuation of it, a place where the stars learned how to walk, to breathe, to feel. This is what science tells us, but also what the heart already knows, that we are connected, that nothing is wasted, that even in the smallest part of ourselves there is something vast and unknowable, something that echoes with the silence of galaxies. And so the blood in your veins becomes a kind of language. It speaks of origins. It tells you, you were never alone, you were never small. You are the universe come into motion. And if you listen, truly listen, to that quiet song within you, you may begin to hear the pulse of other things too. The hum of the trees drawing minerals from the ground, the flutter of a bird flying with calcium bones and carbon breath, the slow churn of the ocean, rich with the same salts that run through your cells. The world is full of echoes. Every living thing carries a version of your story. And every story ends with the same return, to soil, to space, to stillness. But in that return, something miraculous happens. Life continues, not in the exact shape it had before, but in new arrangements, new wonders. Perhaps your iron will become part of a child's laughter one day, or the skeleton of a whale, or the shimmer in the wing of a dragonfly. You will not know, and that's okay. The beauty is not in knowing, but in trusting. Trusting that the stars are not done with you, that your story, like theirs, will go on. And so the next time you stand beneath the night sky, try this. Place your hand over your heart. Feel its rhythm. Know that it is the rhythm of the stars, not just figuratively, literally. You are held together by atoms that burned in a supernova, cooled in the dust of galaxies, and now move within you like music. The sky above is not distant. It is within. Every constellation, every shooting star, every pale flicker of light in the dark, they are your relatives, your ancestors, your reflections. And you, for a brief moment, get to carry their fire. This is the gift of science, not just knowledge, but meaning. A reminder that what we are is not random. It is ancient. It is shared. It is miraculous in its simplicity. And it asks nothing of us but this, to wonder, to remember, and to care. Because when you know that every human carries stardust in their veins, how can you not treat them with reverence? How can you not see the sacred in their steps, the eternal in their eyes? Your blood, that quiet river within, is more than a tool. It is a testimony, a trace of time before time, a signature left by the universe on your skin. You are not only alive, you are participating in a cosmic story billions of years in the making. And you are not done yet. Your breath is still writing. Your steps are still shaping. And your heart, that soft engine of iron and hope, is still singing the song of stars. So let it beat, let it carry you. Let it remind you again and again that you are made of something older than fear, older than death. You are made of the dust that remembers light, and no matter where your journey leads, that light remains. Quiet, eternal, home. Far beyond our solar system, past the glitter of familiar stars and the spiral arms of our galaxy, there is a kind of quiet that the human ear will never hear. It is not the absence of sound, but something more complete, a silence so vast and ancient that it feels like space itself is holding its breath. This is the silence between the galaxies, the dark stretches of nothingness that lie between the island cities of light we call galactic clusters. Out there, no birds sing, no wind rustles, no footsteps echo. There are no trees to sway, no oceans to whisper. Just emptiness, thick, black, and humming with secrets we can barely imagine. And yet this emptiness is not truly empty. Though it looks like darkness, it is threaded with invisible particles, with faint radiation, with gravity pulling silently from afar. In this great in-between, galaxies drift like ships lost in a sea too wide for any map. They are separated by millions of light years, yet they move in patterns shaped by forces that stretch back to the birth of the cosmos. We often speak of galaxies as things, clusters of stars, planets, dust, but we forget what surrounds them. We forget the vastness that cradles them. We forget the silence. To stand on Earth and look up is to see stars dancing across a sky we can never truly touch. But if we could drift far enough into space, past all suns and planets, past the soft glow of gas clouds and the shimmer of nebulae, we would eventually reach a place where no light has yet arrived. A place so distant from everything familiar that even the brightest galaxy would look like a pinprick in an ocean of ink. This space between the galaxies is not hostile. It is not cold in the way we feel cold. It is simply quiet, still, patient. And it has been that way for nearly the entire history of the universe. When the Big Bang scattered energy and matter in every direction, galaxies began to form in pockets of density. The space between those pockets expanded faster than anything else. Today, those voids, those intergalactic deserts, make up the majority of space. Most of the universe is not stars or planets or dust. It is silence. It is distance. It is the invisible web that holds the bright pieces apart. But even in that silence, things move. Photons from ancient stars travel through this dark, uninterrupted. Neutrinos, tiny ghost-like particles, pass through without pause, and gravity weaves its influence like invisible fingers, shaping paths and pulling strings. Every galaxy, no matter how distant, feels the tug of others. Every movement, every curve, is part of a larger dance choreographed by forces older than time itself. It is easy to think of the silence between galaxies as nothing. But it is in that nothing that everything finds its place. Now imagine floating there in the in-between. No sound, no wind, just the soft shimmer of your own breath inside your helmet, the faint vibration of your heartbeat. Around you the darkness stretches forever, but you are not alone. Ahead a faint galaxy glows, spiral arms curling like a seashell. Behind, another spark of light fades into distance. You are suspended not in emptiness but in possibility, in the pause between sentences, in the space where stories wait to be written. This intergalactic silence is not only physical, it is also a metaphor for the unknown, for all that lies beyond what we can measure or name. The human mind is like a galaxy, bright in places, crowded with thoughts, but between those thoughts are spaces, moments of stillness, gaps where ideas have not yet formed. And in those gaps, just like in the universe, meaning waits. We spend our lives filling those spaces, with language, with noise, with action. But sometimes it is in the silence that the truth appears. Scientists have begun mapping the structure of the universe on the largest scale. What they see is astonishing. Galaxies form threads, filaments like strands of a spider's web. These threads connect into clusters, and the clusters surround enormous voids, regions where there are almost no galaxies at all. These voids can be hundreds of millions of light years wide. They are the punctuation between the paragraphs of creation, and though they seem empty, they are essential. Without the quiet, there would be no shape. Without the dark, the light would have no meaning. It's humbling to realize how little of the universe we actually see. The stars, the planets, the galaxies, they are just a fraction. Most of space is dark energy and dark matter, things we cannot see but that shape everything. Dark energy pushes the universe to expand faster and faster. Dark matter holds galaxies together like glue we cannot touch. These forces move in silence. They do not glow, they do not speak, but they are everywhere. They are the architects of the cosmos, working unseen. And what about us? What is our place in this quiet immensity? We are small, yes, but we are aware. We can look into the darkness and wonder what lies beyond. We can build instruments to catch the faintest light from galaxies too far to reach. We can send questions across space and listen for answers, even if none come. Our curiosity, like starlight, travels far. And in that act, in wondering, in listening, we become part of the silence too. Because the silence between galaxies is not dead. It is not absence. It is presence without pressure, being without sound. And sometimes when life grows too noisy, too crowded with urgency, we can remember this, that the universe is made mostly of quiet, that most of what exists is space to breathe, to float, to wait. And that is not a failure. That is design. So let yourself rest in that silence. Let your thoughts stretch across the void. Let them drift like galaxies connected by invisible threads. There is no rush. The stars are in no hurry. The universe is unfolding slowly and perfectly in the rhythm of its own breath. And between every heartbeat, every word, every galaxy, there is silence. And in that silence there is peace. Now let us drift further, beyond thought, into the structure of the great cosmic web itself. Imagine it not as a solid thing, but as a living lace of galaxies connected by tendrils of gravity, stitched across the emptiness like the threads of a spider's dream. Between these threads lie vast voids, unimaginably large expanses of near-perfect darkness where only a few lonely galaxies dwell. These voids are not broken, they are balanced. They are part of a universe that has learned to breathe in both sound and stillness, both presence and pause. And the silence in these voids is not absence. It is space where the universe can rest. We are taught to fear emptiness, to fill silence with noise. But in the cosmos, silence holds everything together. The galaxies are shaped by the spaces between them, just as music is shaped by the rests between notes. In the largest known structure of the universe, these silent spaces are more than just gaps. They define the architecture of reality. They give shape to what matters, quite literally. Without the voids, the galaxies would have no framework to grow around. Their gravity would collapse inward, tangled and unformed. But with space, vast, calm, quiet space, everything has room to spiral, to stretch, to become. And these silent stretches are not static. They expand. Since the Big Bang, the universe has been growing, and that growth accelerates. This means that the silence between galaxies is not just wide, it is widening. Every moment you breathe, the space between distant galaxies grows a little farther apart. Scientists do not yet fully understand why, but they believe it has something to do with dark energy, a force that doesn't pull like gravity but pushes, as if the universe itself longs to stretch. And so the voids expand, the galaxies drift away, and silence becomes even more dominant. But this expansion does not separate us from meaning. It draws us into it, because within this silence lies evidence of everything that came before. The photons that left galaxies billions of years ago still pass through the voids. Their journey is long but undisturbed. Unlike light on Earth, which is scattered, absorbed, bent, and blurred, the light in intergalactic space travels cleanly, purely, as if protected by the silence around it. That light carries messages of what galaxies were, of what stars burned, of what once existed. The silence between the galaxies is a kind of library, and light is the memory it preserves. When we point our telescopes at the darkest patches of sky, what we find is not empty. We find countless galaxies, small, faint, almost invisible to the eye. They are not easily seen, but they are there. Some so far that their light has traveled nearly the full age of the universe to reach us. In this way, the silence becomes a window, not into nothingness, but into history. The farther we look, the older the light. It is possible, then, to see the first galaxies, the first clustering of matter, the beginning of structure in the vastness. And this view only exists because of the silence in between. Even the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, is visible only because it passed through these silent stretches. That soft hum of ancient radiation discovered in the static of radio receivers carries the shape of the early universe. It holds the fingerprint of matter frozen in time, and it whispers to us through the silence. If space had been crowded, noisy, filled with clouds or chaos, we would not see it. But space was and still is mostly quiet. And so we can hear the echo of creation itself. This silence has another gift: it allows us to wonder. In a noisy world, wonder is easily drowned, but silence gives it room to grow, to ask questions without rushing to answers. Are there galaxies we will never see? Are there regions so distant that their light will never reach us, even given infinite time? Is there something beyond the observable universe, something beyond even our dreams? These questions bloom not in certainty, but in silence. The kind that lets us imagine, not just what is, but what could be. And now, as we imagine ourselves out there, floating between galaxies in a craft as small as a whisper, what will we feel? Not fear, not loneliness, but awe. The kind that takes away not your breath, but your need for words. The kind that makes you listen not to sound, but to space itself. Out there, time feels slower. Light moves with reverence, and every tiny particle seems to glide rather than fall. It is a ballet of stillness, a performance written not in music, but in pause. And just as the galaxies are shaped by the voids, so are we shaped by silence. In the space between our thoughts, new ideas are born. In the space between heartbeats, life finds its rhythm. We do not live only in action, in noise, in motion. We live in the quiet too, in the breath before the sentence, in the hush before the leap, in the space between stars. This cosmic silence also reminds us of how rare and beautiful life is. In all the galaxies, in all the stars, we have found only one world that sings with forests, that echoes with language, that glows with consciousness. Earth, suspended in space, wrapped in breath and memory. We are the exception, a single candle flickering in an ocean of dark. But what makes us rare does not make us alone, because the atoms that make us came from stars, and those stars were born in galaxies. And those galaxies drift through silence. So even in the quietest parts of the universe, we are still connected. And what does this mean for us, tiny, wandering creatures with bones of calcium and eyes made to catch light? It means that we are part of something larger, that even our silence matters. That when we pause to listen, to look, to breathe, we are not stepping away from the universe, we are stepping into it. The silence between the galaxies is not a wall. It is an invitation, a space to understand, to imagine, to remember where we came from and where we are going. So when you next see the night sky, when you next feel the hush between stars, know that this silence is not empty. It is full, full of time, full of light, full of the soft, endless rhythm of a universe that holds you gently in its arms. Let us now return from the outer edges of the universe, back through the filaments of galaxies, back past the darkened voids and ancient light, back toward Earth, not as an escape, but as a deepening. For the silence between galaxies, so wide and distant, also lives within us. It hums beneath the noise of life. It waits in the gaps between our thoughts, in the stillness between the rush of words. And when we understand the quiet between the galaxies, we begin to understand something about ourselves. That stillness is not the absence of meaning, but its foundation. On Earth, it is easy to lose the thread of the cosmos. We move fast. We fill time. We chase after sound. The stars become decorations, the sky a forgotten ceiling. But the silence never stops holding us. Even here, in the spaces between atoms, between heartbeats, there is more empty space than matter. Your body, so solid and present, is mostly made of gaps, microscopic voids where particles whirl and light flickers. You are a constellation of matter surrounded by stillness, not unlike a galaxy in the dark. You are the silence made visible. And this silence is not passive. It shapes everything. It gives space for molecules to move, for thoughts to grow, for energy to flow. Without it, nothing could change. Nothing could breathe. The same is true of the universe. It is the quiet between stars that allows galaxies to stretch and swirl. It is the darkness between clusters that gives gravity room to weave its threads. And it is the silence between the galaxies that allows light to carry its stories unbroken for billions of years. So much of science is built on observing motion, things that spin, collide, burn, rise, fall. But the quiet, the still, the unseen, these are just as important. They are the canvas, the waiting field, the breath before creation. In the silence, we find room for awe. We find the patience to ask the questions we do not yet know how to answer. What lies beyond the edge of the observable? Is space infinite, or does it curl back on itself in a shape too vast for vision? Are there other universes folded beside ours, forever out of reach? The silence does not answer, but it listens. It holds space for the asking. This silence also carries a deep tenderness, for it does not rush, it does not demand. It lets galaxies bloom in their own time. It lets stars burn and fade without judgment. And in that same way, it invites us to slow down, to listen inward, to honor our own rhythms. Just as a galaxy can drift for 1 billion years without losing its place, you too can take your time. You too can exist without noise. You are not here to fill every moment with sound. You are allowed to pause. And when we do pause, we find that silence is not empty. It is full of memory. The silence between galaxies is filled with the light of what once was. And so is our inner silence, full of what we've seen, what we've loved, what we've lost. Memory moves like light, slow and invisible, shaped by space. It is softened by time. And like galaxies, our memories are held in patterns, drawn by unseen forces, sometimes drifting apart, sometimes circling back. Within the quiet of your own mind, there is a map of everything you've ever been. The universe will continue its slow expansion, pulling galaxies ever farther apart. Someday, the night sky will look different. Distant galaxies will vanish from view. Light will no longer reach us from the far edges of space. The silence will grow. But in that growing silence, new stories will begin. Stars will still form. Planets will still turn. And if there is life out there, it too will look up and wonder. The silence will remain, not as an end, but as a stage for new beginnings. Perhaps that is the truest gift of the silence between galaxies. It makes space for what comes next. It is not a void to be feared, but a cradle to hold what has not yet been imagined. When we look at it, we are not looking into darkness. We are looking into the future, into possibility, into the gentle unfolding of time. And so, the next time you find yourself overwhelmed by noise, by motion, by the brightness of it all, close your eyes. Imagine yourself floating not on water or air, but on the dark silk of space itself. Let yourself drift, weightless in the silence between the galaxies. There is no danger there, only distance, only depth, only the soft hush of a universe that remembers everything and rushes nothing. You are part of this silence, not apart from it, and it will hold you always, through questions and changes, through motion and rest, through every breath you take beneath the stars. Because no matter how far the galaxies stretch, no matter how wide the spaces grow, you are never truly lost. You are part of the great quiet. You are part of the rhythm that makes the light shine brighter, simply because the darkness is there to receive it. In that knowledge there is peace. In that peace there is wonder. And in that wonder the silence speaks softly, eternally, not with words but with presence, with stillness, with love. There is a force in the universe that does not shine, does not burn, does not flash or flicker, and yet it moves everything. It pulls at planets and whispers to moons. It holds the oceans in place and draws the tides back home. It is invisible, intangible, and constant. This is gravity, the oldest clock, the quietest engine, the force that binds the universe together without making a sound. Long before life took its first breath, gravity was already shaping the stars. Long before the earth cooled, gravity was writing the rhythm of everything that would follow. It is not loud, but it is endless. It is not fast, but it never stops. Imagine space as a sheet stretched tight, and every object in the universe, every planet, every sun, every galaxy, is like a weight placed upon that sheet. The heavier the object, the deeper the dip. And around these dips, other objects begin to spin, drawn not by magic, but by the slow, steady tug of gravity's hand. The Earth orbits the sun because of this pull. The moon circles us in silence, bound by it. Even your feet stay on the ground because gravity never forgets where you are. It reaches for you, always softly, unshaken. And yet gravity is not just a tether. It is time's companion. Albert Einstein showed us that gravity can bend time itself. Near massive objects like stars or black holes, time slows down. This isn't science fiction, it's reality. A clock placed on a mountain ticks just a little faster than one at sea level because it is farther from Earth's gravitational pull. Your body, sitting quietly on Earth's surface, experiences time ever so slightly slower than a satellite orbiting far above you. The deeper you go into gravity's well, the more time begins to stretch. And so gravity, in its gentle pull, sculpts not just motion, but the shape of time itself. This bending of space and time is why planets follow curved paths around their stars. Not because they are being pulled by ropes or pushed by winds, but because they are moving through curved space. Gravity doesn't grab, it warps. It changes the map. It tells space how to bend and tells matter how to move. And through this quiet conversation, the dance of the cosmos continues, planets circling, stars swirling, galaxies spiraling like watch hands turning across the dark. Long ago, humans noticed this dance. They watched the moon rise and fall, the stars drift through seasons, the tides reach and retreat. They did not yet know the word gravity, but they felt its rhythm. Sailors guided their ships by the pull of the moon, farmers planted by the tilt of the sun. Gravity was always there, ticking softly in the background, marking the hours, setting the pace. And yet gravity is not always gentle. When massive stars reach the end of their lives, gravity pulls inward with ferocity. If the mass is great enough, nothing can stop the collapse, not heat, not pressure, not even light. What remains is a black hole, a place where gravity is so strong that even time stops. These are not monsters. They are echoes of stars, silent clocks whose hands no longer turn but whose pull never ceases. They do not suck things in like vacuums. Instead, they wait, still and dense, curving space so tightly that all paths lead inward. Black holes, though terrifying in name, are part of the same story as the moon's soft tug and the Earth's slow spin. They are simply gravity's fullest expression. And though we cannot see them directly, we see their influence. Stars orbiting invisible points, light bending around darkness. We even hear them now. When black holes collide, they send ripples through space-time, gravitational waves that travel across the universe like gentle shivers in an endless lake. We have built instruments so sensitive that they can detect these ripples, these whispers from events billions of years and miles away. And in those whispers, gravity tells us stories. Stories of stars locked in an eternal embrace, of galaxies merging, of matter folding in on itself not out of violence but of inevitability. And in those stories we find our place, because gravity does not just shape the stars, it shapes us. It pulled dust together to make Earth. It drew oceans into place. It guided the moon into our sky where it steadies our axis and lengthens our days. Without gravity, there would be no Earth as we know it, no seasons, no tides, no time. Even in your body, gravity plays its part. Your muscles work constantly against its pull. Your balance, your stride, your heartbeat, each has been shaped by gravity's presence. Astronauts who live without it for too long must retrain their bodies when they return. Without gravity, bones lose density, fluids shift, hearts grow weak. We are designed for it not as prisoners but as companions to its gentle weight. And gravity reaches farther still. It tells galaxies how to form, drawing stars into spirals and clusters. It sculpts the large-scale structure of the universe, linking filaments of matter into the great cosmic web. Even the future of the cosmos depends on gravity's balance with expansion. If the pull is too weak, galaxies drift apart forever. If too strong, everything could collapse back inward. But right now, the balance allows for wonder, for life, for curiosity, for stories like this one. So the next time you drop a stone and watch it fall, remember that it falls not because the earth pulls it, but because space curves around it. The stone follows the path that space lays before it, a path shaped by the quiet hand of gravity. And that same hand holds the planets in orbit, bends time near mountains, and sends waves through the fabric of the cosmos. Gravity is not loud. It does not crack or flash. It does not rush. It waits. It draws. It shapes. It remembers. And in its rhythm we find the beat of the universe. We find the clockwork beneath the stars. We find in the fall of a leaf or the orbit of a moon a pattern that connects all things, gentle, persistent, and eternal. Let's drift deeper into the quiet architecture of this invisible force, tracing its touch from the tiniest corners of our daily lives to the grandest expressions in the sky. Gravity is not just something that happens when an apple falls. It is the unseen composer of cosmic symphonies. It moves slowly, steadily, with patience beyond imagination. It does not push. It does not shout. It simply curves space and lets everything follow. And in following those curves, stars, planets, moons, dust, we find rhythm, we find shape, we find the clockwork of existence itself. Long before telescopes and satellites, ancient peoples watched the stars and noticed their steady paths. The sun returned each day, rose higher in summer, dipped lower in winter. The moon waxed and waned with elegance, tied to tides that danced upon the shore. Planets wandered slowly through the night sky, not like stars, but with purpose. These movements were not chaotic. They were timed. They were answers to a force no one could see, but everyone could feel. Even without the word for gravity, they sensed its truth. Isaac Newton gave it its name, describing gravity as a force that pulled masses toward one another. His apple may not have hit him on the head, but his thoughts reshaped the world. He saw what others overlooked, that the same force pulling a fruit to earth also kept the moon in orbit. It was a unifying thread between heaven and home. But it was Einstein who later revealed its deeper poetry. Space and time are not rigid. They bend. They ripple. And gravity is that bend, a shaping of the invisible. No longer just a pull between masses, it became a dialogue between matter and motion. Matter tells space how to curve, Einstein wrote, and space tells matter how to move. This idea, strange and beautiful, changes how we see everything. A planet does not circle its star because it is being tugged by a rope. It is moving in a straight line through a curved space. The star creates the dip in the space around it, and the planet moves along that dip, like a marble tracing the edge of a bowl. The moon does the same around Earth, and Earth, in turn, orbits the sun, wrapped gently in its gravitational fold. But gravity does more than hold things together. It shapes how we see the universe. Light itself, though massless, follows the curvature of space. When light passes near a massive object, like a galaxy or a black hole, it bends. This effect, called gravitational lensing, allows us to see things far behind the object itself. The massive thing becomes a lens, distorting and magnifying the light behind it. In this way, gravity becomes a kind of telescope, a soft and silent amplifier that reveals galaxies too distant to observe otherwise. Through gravity's lens, we peer deeper into the past. And we've now learned that gravity itself can move. When massive objects like black holes collide, they send ripples through space-time, gravitational waves. These waves stretch and squeeze space itself as they pass. In 2015, scientists detected these waves for the first time, a century after Einstein predicted them. The instruments that made this discovery, called LIGO and Virgo, are so precise they can detect changes smaller than the width of a proton. And in those tiny shifts, we heard the whisper of two black holes merging over 1 billion light-years away. That event happened before humans had written their first words. And yet, the waves arrived here, crossing the silence of the universe to ring in our detectors like a distant bell. Gravity, once only felt, could now be heard. But even without black holes and galaxies, gravity is here, close and constant. It is in the way your muscles grow stronger the more you resist it. It is in the way trees grow tall, sending roots down against it and branches up despite it. It is in the arc of a thrown ball, in the curve of a bird's flight. Without gravity, there would be no flight at all, no wings to catch the air, no ground to return to. Even our breath, moving in and out, works in part because gravity helps pull oxygen through our blood. Gravity is not a distant mystery. It is the thread that ties us to the earth, and the earth to the stars. And it binds not just bodies but systems. Our solar system moves as one great choreographed dance because of gravity's laws. The planets orbit the sun, but they also pull on each other, creating tiny wobbles in their paths, quiet nods of interaction. Jupiter tugs on Saturn, Saturn nudges Uranus, Earth and Venus exchange subtle whispers as they pass. The sun, massive though it is not the center of all motion. It too is pulled by Jupiter's weight by the galaxy's arms. Everything pulls. Everything responds. It is a mutual motion, a soft cosmic conversation. And our galaxy, the Milky Way, is part of this motion too. It spins slowly, its stars orbiting the center like dancers circling a fire. That center, we now know, holds a supermassive black hole, millions of times the mass of our sun. We cannot see it, but its gravity is evident in the speed of the stars nearby. They whip around at unimaginable velocities, kept in orbit by a force no eye can see. And even beyond our galaxy, gravity continues its pull. The Milky Way is slowly drawing closer to another galaxy, Andromeda. In about 4 billion years, they will merge, not in a crash, but in a slow swirl of stars, two clocks aligning in a longer rhythm. Gravity moves slowly, yes, but its reach is eternal. It is not interested in speed. It is not driven by urgency. It works in centuries, in millennia, in eons. And yet it never tires, it never wavers. It carries galaxies through space as gently as it holds a stone to Earth. And this is the heart of its beauty, not its power, but its patience. Gravity teaches us that not all motion must be fast to be meaningful, that not all force must be loud to be enduring, that sometimes the most powerful things are those that never stop, even when we're not watching. So let us pause here within this movement and feel its presence in our own lives. The way we walk, the way we grow, the way we fall and rise again, each is shaped by gravity's quiet hand. And when we look up at the sky and see a planet tracing its path or a moon hovering just above the horizon, we can know this. We are watching time. We are watching space. We are watching the universe keep its promise, that what moves must move with meaning, that what falls must fall with grace. Now let us return to the beginning once more, not to the birth of stars or the turning of galaxies, but to that first gentle curve in space. The moment when gravity became more than potential, when it became motion, became time, became the thread on which all of creation would be strung. That moment was quiet. It was not a thunderclap. It was not a spark. It was simply space learning to bend, learning to hold, learning to whisper. And in that whisper was everything. It pulled the first particles together. It gave shape to the formless. It did not create matter, but it gave matter a place to go, a direction, a rhythm. Gravity is in this way the most generous of forces. It asks for nothing, yet it gives everything structure. It does not need to be seen to be obeyed. It works without complaint, without pause. Even when galaxies collide and stars fall into shadow, gravity does not falter. It adjusts. It adapts. It begins again. A galaxy torn apart becomes a new one, fuller and more complex. Stars pulled into orbits they did not choose light up the dark in new constellations. And even in loss, gravity finds balance. It does not mourn change, it simply holds it. Think of this the next time you watch a stone skip across water or see leaves falling in spirals through autumn air. Those motions are not random. They are echoes, reflections of deeper currents, of gravity pulling not just down but inward toward a center that changes depending on where you stand. And this center is never fixed. The Earth orbits the sun, which orbits the center of the galaxy, which itself drifts in the current of the universe's great expansion. There is no still point, only motion layered upon motion. And in this constant change, gravity provides the melody. It is not just a physical force, it is a reminder that everything we love, everything we know is in motion. That stillness, while precious, is always temporary. Planets shift, stars drift, and time flows not because something is broken, but because the universe is alive. Alive in the sense that it moves, that it learns, that it breathes in eons. And in that breath, we too are moved. We are carried by gravity from cradle to grave, from first step to final rest. We rise and fall not against it, but with it. Even when we fall, gravity is not the enemy. It is the guide, the one who brings us back to Earth, the one who reminds us where we began. And when we leap on a trampoline into the air, into dreams, it is gravity that makes the return meaningful. Without that return, there would be no flight. Without the arc, there would be no journey. Even our language remembers this. We speak of being grounded, of feeling pulled to something. We do not always realize we are speaking of gravity, but we are. And perhaps deep down, that is why we look up at the stars, not just to see light, but to feel gravity's opposite, to imagine floating, to imagine freedom from weight. But even in those dreams, gravity does not disappear. It follows us, shapes our ships, curves our paths. Even in orbit, we are falling endlessly around the Earth, not away from it. And that falling, that graceful surrender, is what keeps us aloft. There is a kind of love in this, a quiet devotion. Gravity never lets go, not because it is clingy or possessive, but because it is faithful, steady. It holds without hurting. It shapes without shouting. It is not the love of drama, but the love of constancy. The kind that says, I am here, I have always been here, and I will carry you no matter where you go. And when we speak of the future, of stars burning out, of galaxies fading, of the universe stretching into cold stillness, gravity will still be there. Long after the last star has gone dark, gravity will hold what remains. The black holes, the neutron stars, the dust of what once was. It will carry them through the silent dark, not with urgency, not with regret, but with the same grace it has always known. And maybe, just maybe, gravity will remember us not in words but in shape, in the curve of a planet's path, in the spin of a moon we once watched from quiet fields, in the rings of a world no one will ever visit but that turn just the same. Gravity does not need to know us to honor us. It honors all things equally, and in that equality we are never forgotten. So let this be the lesson gravity gives us, not just how to measure force or calculate mass, but how to be constant, how to be quiet and still move mountains, how to hold gently, how to bend and let others move with us, how to stay even when everything else is drifting, how to listen not for sound but for shape, for the weight of meaning. Because in the end, gravity is not just science. It is story. It is the oldest rhythm, the first pulse, the breath that came before breath. And in its silent pull we find ourselves, not as separate from the universe, but as part of its turning, its spinning, its soft and endless fall into meaning. Some of the light you see tonight is older than the trees, older than the oceans, older than the earth beneath your feet. It began its journey before the first eyes had opened, before birds sang or rivers remembered the rain. This light, traveling through the dark at the speed of everything, left its home long before your name was ever spoken. It comes to you not from the present, but from the past, a past so distant it stretches the imagination. Every time you look up at the stars, you are looking back. Not just minutes or hours, but centuries, millennia, even billions of years into history. And this light, this ancient whisper, carries stories older than time as we know it. Light moves quickly, faster than anything else in the known universe. In 1 second it can circle Earth 7 times. In 8 minutes it reaches us from the Sun. In just over 4 years it comes from Proxima Centauri, the nearest star after the Sun. But the stars beyond, the ones we see with wide eyes on clear nights, are much farther still. The light they give left long ago. Some of it has traveled for hundreds of years, some for thousands, some for millions or billions. And in that journey time stretches. What we see now is not how those stars are. It is how they were. Some may no longer even exist. Their light is here, but they are gone. This is one of the great, quiet truths of the universe. We are always seeing echoes. The farther into space we look, the deeper into the past we peer. A telescope is not just a tool of distance. It is a machine of memory. It catches photons, tiny packets of light that have been on the road since before our species began to speak. And with each photon caught, we see what once was, a galaxy forming, a star exploding, a cloud of dust becoming something more. These are not just images. They are messages. They are time capsules. And when we look at them, we become witnesses to an ancient unfolding. Even the light of our own sun is not quite current. The photons warming your skin today began their journey in the sun's core thousands of years ago. There, deep within that blazing furnace, hydrogen atoms were fused into helium, releasing light in the form of energy. But that light did not leave the sun right away. It bounced, scattered, lost its way in the dense interior for millennia before finally escaping to the surface. And then in just 8 minutes, racing across the 93 million miles to Earth. The sunlight that feeds the trees and paints the sky is old, and yet it still arrives, soft, golden, true. This idea that light is a traveler reshapes how we think of everything. It turns the sky into a library, each star a page from a different era. It reminds us that we are not separate from the cosmos but part of its ongoing story, that we are surrounded always by messages written in brightness. Messages we cannot always read but that we feel nonetheless. They tell us, I was here, I shone, I burned, I lived. And what of the galaxies? The great island universes floating in space. When we look at them through powerful telescopes, we do not see them as they are but as they were. The Andromeda galaxy, for example, is over 2 million light-years away. This means the light we see from it tonight left when early humans were carving stones, when fire was still a new idea. We are not looking at its present form. We are watching a younger Andromeda, frozen in time. We are seeing a version of it that no longer exists, and yet it still speaks, still shines. The Hubble Space Telescope, peering far deeper into the cosmos, has captured light that left its source over 13 billion years ago. This light began its journey not long after the Big Bang itself. It traveled through expanding space, through eons of silence and formation, passing galaxies and voids until it reached us, tiny creatures on a pale blue dot, wondering what it all means. And in receiving that light, in understanding its origin, we are changed. We are stretched by perspective. We are humbled by time. But light does not just carry distance, it carries information. By analyzing the light from stars and galaxies, scientists can determine what elements they contain, how fast they are moving, how old they are. The light holds clues about birth, about death, about transformation. It tells us what the universe is made of and how it came to be. Spectroscopy, the study of this light, is like listening to a language spoken by the stars. Every line in the spectrum is a word. Every shift in wavelength is a whisper. And this is not limited to distant things. Even the light around us, sunlight, firelight, moonlight, tells stories. It bounces off leaves, slips through windows, dances on water. It reflects, refracts, fades and flares. It touches skin. It wakes flowers. It draws shadows. It shapes moods. We do not simply live in light, we live with it. It enters our eyes, ignites our brains, creates the world we see. Without light, there would be no color, no form, no contrast. The world would still be here, but it would be silent to sight. Light is what makes it known. And yet light can also be misleading. It can bend, as we've seen, when passing near massive objects. It can stretch, becoming redder as galaxies move away from us, a phenomenon known as redshift. This tells us that the universe is expanding, that space itself is growing. The farther a galaxy, the faster it appears to recede, not because it moves through space, but because space moves around it. Light, stretched by time, tells us this. And so, even in its silence, light speaks of motion, of change, of a universe that never rests. And we here on Earth are not just observers of this light, we are its creation. The energy that powers your heartbeat, your thoughts, your warmth, began as light. Trapped in food, born in sunlight, transformed by cells into motion and memory. Every moment you are alive is lit from within. You are not only watching the light, you are continuing it. You are what happens when light takes form. Let us now travel with that light, not as spectators but as companions, gliding through the deep corridors of space, past stars and dust and silence. Imagine yourself as a photon, a tiny, weightless messenger born in the heart of a star. Your journey begins in fire. Inside the star's core, atoms collide with such intensity that they merge, fusing hydrogen into helium and releasing energy in the process. That energy is you. You are born in heat and pressure, flung outward in a storm of radiance. But the path is not straight. Before you ever escape the star, you are bounced, scattered, trapped in a maze of atoms. For thousands, even millions of years, you wander that glowing labyrinth. You are slowed not by time but by the sheer density of what surrounds you, until at last you reach the surface, and then you are free. The moment you break into open space, your journey changes. There is no more scattering, no more bouncing, just a single, unbroken flight across the dark. You move at light speed now with nothing to slow you. And you are patient, you do not age, you do not rest. Whether it takes you seconds or eons, you will go on. You will travel through emptiness richer than any silence on Earth. You will pass planets, comets, nebulae. Some will block you, some will bend your path, but most will not notice you at all. You will continue, quietly, persistently, until you are seen or lost. For the photons that reach Earth, their journey ends in an eye, a leaf, a telescope, or a sensor. When you strike a surface, you are absorbed. Your energy is transformed. You become warmth, vision, memory. You cease to be a particle and instead become part of something else. This is the fate of light, to move until it can no longer move and then to give itself away. And in this there is something sacred, something selfless. Light never hoards. It always arrives with a gift. Even moonlight, pale and delicate, is borrowed sunlight. It is light that left the sun, touched the moon's dusty surface, and was reflected back to us. What we see as silver glow is just a second-hand sunbeam, softened by distance and reflection, but it still carries its original story. It still holds the fire of its origin, even in its gentler form. And this is true of all reflected light, on lakes, on faces, in mirrors. It is old, but it adapts. It becomes something new, just as we do. Some light is so old it no longer shines in the way our eyes can see. The cosmic microwave background, for example, is the afterglow of the Big Bang itself. It is the oldest light we can observe, born when the universe was just a few 100,000 years old. At that time, everything was hot and dense, filled with particles and radiation. But as the universe expanded, it cooled. The first atoms formed, and for the first time, light could move freely. That light is still traveling, still wrapping around us, still whispering the temperature of creation. We cannot see it with our eyes, but with special instruments we can map it. It is faint, uniform, and everywhere, a soft echo from a time when the universe was still finding its shape. And then there is starlight, not the ancient kind, but the familiar kind. The glow that trickles into your bedroom at night, or washes the grass in silver, or slips between leaves at dawn. That light has traveled far too, though perhaps only a few years or centuries. It is still old. It still carries the trace of its origin, and when it touches your skin, it leaves more than warmth. It leaves presence, a sense of connection, of wonder, of the distance it crossed to find you. Sometimes we forget how much light shapes our lives. We chase artificial brightness, screens, bulbs, neon. But natural light, the kind that travels without interruption, offers something different. It offers memory. It offers rhythm. It reminds flowers when to bloom, birds when to migrate, humans when to wake and sleep. It is the original clock, the first calendar. Before we had numbers, we had sunrises. Before we had hours, we had shadows stretching and shrinking with the day. And light carries emotion too. A golden hour before sunset can soften the hardest day. A moonbeam on the floor can make a room feel sacred. A flash of lightning can awaken awe. Even in darkness, the absence of light tells a story. It sharpens contrast. It draws us inward. It lets us rest. The dance between light and dark is not a battle, it is a balance. One shapes the other. One gives meaning to the other. And together they create depth. We often speak of light in metaphors. We talk about people being a light in the dark, about seeing the light, or finding the light at the end of the tunnel. These phrases are not just poetry. They reflect something deep in us, a longing, a recognition. We know even without being told that light means life, hope, clarity. And when we look up at the stars, when we follow a beam across a room, we are remembering something ancient. We are remembering that we are part of this brightness, that we carry it, reflect it, even in our quietest moments. And the most humbling truth, your body emits light too, not enough to see with the naked eye, but enough to measure. Every living being glows ever so faintly. This bioluminescence comes from chemical reactions inside your cells, especially when energy is used. It's called ultraweak photon emission, and though it is soft, it is real. You glow. You shimmer, however subtly. You too are a lighthouse, a star in slow motion. This means that just as you receive light, you also give it. You absorb, you reflect, you emit. You are part of the cycle, not just biologically but cosmically. The photons that warm your face today may one day leave again, reflected, scattered, remembered by another surface, another eye. You are not just touched by ancient light, you help continue its journey. So when you stand in the sun or under stars or by a flame, remember this: the light around you is old, the light within you is present, and together they are telling a story that stretches across time and space, a story of beginnings, of endurance, of quiet arrival. Now imagine this journey of light reaching its end, not in the fading of a star, but in the opening of your eyes. You are standing outside beneath a wide sky, the sun just beginning to rise. Its rays touch your skin, your face, the ground around you. And though this light feels immediate, it is not. It left the sun over 8 minutes ago. In that time, it has crossed nearly 100 million miles of emptiness to arrive exactly here, at this moment, to greet you. And you, without knowing it, are receiving a message that has traveled through silence and vacuum and time. A message that says simply, I am here. You are not just watching the light, you are part of its destination. You are the surface it was always meant to reach. And that makes you part of something larger, something ancient, something unfolding even now. Because light, for all its speed, is slow in a way that matters. It doesn't rush, it travels with purpose, it takes time, and when it finally arrives, it doesn't shout, it simply illuminates, it makes things visible, knowable, real. And this is true for all the light we encounter. The stars you see tonight may no longer exist. The galaxies in your telescope may be long changed, but their light remains. Their stories endure. This is not a loss, it is a gift. The cosmos allows us to see the past, to hold it, to wonder at it. We are the only creatures we know who can do this, who can look at ancient light and ask what it means, who can gather photons and turn them into meaning, into memory, into awe. There is a kind of time travel in this, a quiet movement backward through light, a way to reach into the oldest chapters of the universe. We cannot touch the stars, but we can receive their light. We cannot visit the early cosmos, but we can see its glow. And through this, we are never entirely separate from what has come before. We are woven into it like threads in a tapestry lit by time. Even in darkness, light finds ways to endure. On cloudy nights, it waits behind the veil. In deep caves, it hides in crystals and echoes. In the cold of space, it bends and stretches, but it does not stop. Some light may never reach us, may wander endlessly through expanding space, always traveling, never arriving. But it does not vanish. It continues. It lingers. It believes in its own journey, even without an audience. And there is something beautiful in that, something humble. To move forward without promise, to shine without guarantee, to travel simply because that is what you were born to do. This is why light has always meant more than physics to us. It has always meant hope. From the first time a flame pushed back the night to the moment a telescope revealed galaxies beyond imagining, light has guided us, not just through darkness but toward wonder. It has shown us the edge of what we know and dared us to go farther. It has drawn maps on cave walls, written poems in gold, painted saints and skis and souls. It has lit our candles and our futures. And within your own life, light plays 1,000 quiet roles. It tells your body when to wake, helps your mind stay sharp, gives your eyes the power to see color and motion and form. It affects your sleep, your mood, your thoughts. You are not just moved by light, you are regulated by it. Your inner clocks follow it. Your biology depends on it. You are, in a way, a creature of dawn and dusk, of the changing sky. Even our emotions are tied to light. A sunset can soften grief. A sunbeam can lift sadness. The way light filters through leaves or reflects off snow or glows behind clouds, these things stir something wordless in us, something deep. And we don't always know why, we just feel it. A kind of remembering, a kind of returning. As if in the presence of light we come back to ourselves. And in a more literal way, you are light too. The atoms that make your body once absorbed photons. That energy stored in chemical bonds powers your movement, your warmth, your thought. You are not glowing like a star, but you are lit from within. Every heartbeat, every step is fueled by ancient fire, light caught, stored, transformed. You are not just made of stardust. You are made of starlight. And so when you look at the stars tonight, whether they are bright or faint, whether the sky is clear or clouded, remember what you are seeing. Not just distance, not just light, but time itself. You are seeing what once was. You are seeing the echo of something that dared to burn. And in that echo is everything: death and birth, silence and song, the beginning and the beginning again. Let this fill you not with sadness but with wonder. The light that left long ago still reaches you, still warms you, still calls to you. You are part of its path, you are part of its purpose. And that means your own light, however faint, however quiet, matters too. It may travel far, it may take years, but it will reach someone somewhere someday. And when it does, it will say the same thing the stars say now: I was here, I shone, I lived. So carry that light. Let it move through you. Let it rest in your hands, your words, your breath. Let it shape the way you see the world, because the universe is not only made of stars, it is made of the light they leave behind. And you, glowing quietly, are part of that legacy. There is a silence so complete that it hums, a stillness so vast it pulses. In the black spaces between stars, between atoms, between moments, something invisible stirs. Not sound as we know it, not vibration through air, but a kind of music that underlies everything, a background rhythm written into the bones of the cosmos. This is the music of empty space, and though we cannot hear it with ears, it is there. Not in melodies or harmonies, but in waves and warps and the tiniest flickers of possibility. The universe is never truly silent. Even its emptiness sings. To understand this, we must first ask, what is space really? Not the planets or the stars or the light that travels between them, but the space itself, the dark backdrop, the endless canvas. For centuries, scientists believed space was nothingness, a vast and passive void. But today we know that's not true. Space is not empty. It is alive with energy, teeming with fluctuations. It stretches, it bends, it breathes. And in this restless fabric, particles wink into and out of existence. Fields ripple, forces whisper. Even in the vacuum, something remains. And that something, that ever-present hum, is the faint music of being. At the smallest scales, smaller than atoms, smaller than quarks, quantum fields buzz constantly. These fields exist everywhere, even in what appears to be complete emptiness. And from them particles emerge briefly, borrow energy from nowhere, and then vanish again, leaving only traces behind. These quantum fluctuations are not just theoretical curiosities. They have real effects. They push on matter. They shift orbits. They shape what we can see. They are proof that space is not still. It is in motion, constantly. This constant motion creates what physicists call the zero-point energy, the lowest possible energy a quantum system can have. Even when all heat is removed, even when a system is cooled to absolute zero, energy remains. Not much, but enough to ripple the silence, enough to matter. Imagine a violin string held so still it should be silent, and yet it trembles imperceptibly with potential. That is what space does. It holds tension, and in that tension is its music. There are other kinds of music in space, too: ripples in gravity, waves in light. When massive objects like black holes collide, they send out gravitational waves, distortions in spacetime that stretch and compress as they move. These waves pass through everything, including us. They are too faint to feel, but we can measure them, and in measuring them, we hear the universe's rhythm. The instruments that detect these waves don't use microphones. They use lasers, mirrors, patience. They listen to the fabric of reality itself. And when two neutron stars spiral toward each other, when galaxies merge, when stars collapse, the waves they create move across the cosmos like ripples in a pond. These waves are slow, gentle, but they carry stories. We have only just begun to detect them, and already they have revealed events that happened billions of years ago, collisions so far away they happened before the Earth was born, before light reached our skis. These waves are music in a deeper sense, not sound but sequence. Not tone but time. There is also cosmic background radiation, a faint glow left over from the birth of the universe. It is not sound, but it has a frequency, a spectrum, a pattern, and that pattern tells us about the early cosmos. It is a snapshot of a time when everything was hot, dense, and full of light. And though the universe has stretched and cooled, that radiation still surrounds us, still moves through us. It is, in a way, the lullaby of creation, a note that has been playing for nearly 14 billion years, fading slowly but never silent. But perhaps the most mysterious music is the one we can't yet measure, the hum of dark matter, the pressure of dark energy. These are forces and particles we know must exist because of how they shape what we see. Galaxies spin faster than they should. The universe expands quicker than we expect. Something unseen is there, sculpting the stars, pushing the edges, but we do not yet know what it is. It does not shine. It does not speak, but it moves, it pulls. It plays its part in the orchestra of reality. Just as space is not empty, you are not silent either. Your body at rest is a sea of motion. Your atoms vibrate, your heart pulses. Your brain fires signals at the speed of thought. Even in sleep, your cells whisper. Even in stillness, your blood flows. You too are full of quiet music. Not just breath and heartbeat, but deeper rhythms. The folding of proteins, the spinning of electrons, the gravity that keeps you grounded. These are not sounds, but movements. And in those movements, meaning. In a way, we are instruments built to respond to this music. We are sensitive to rhythm, to pattern, to waves. We feel music in our bones, in our chest, in the spaces behind our eyes. And though we do not hear the hum of space, perhaps we sense it, through wonder, through curiosity, through the feeling that there is more than what we can name. We walk through silence that is not silent. We are surrounded by a song so large it becomes background. Some scientists believe that even time itself might arise from these fluctuations, that the ticking we feel, the movement we measure, could be born from the constant churn of quantum space. That time is not a river but a drumbeat, steady, woven into the vacuum itself. And if that is true, then the music of space is the foundation of all rhythm, of all change, of all becoming. Let us sit here for a moment within that music. Let us be still and feel the dance beneath the stillness. The background hum, the unseen song, it does not demand attention, it does not rush or rise, it simply is. Quiet, eternal, present. The music of empty space is not performed, it is not composed, it is the natural outcome of being, and in that it is perfect. Let us now lean closer into this music, the subtle, endless hum that rises not from sound but from the structure of the universe itself. When we speak of the music of space, we do not mean vibrations carried through air. There is no air between stars. There is no medium for classical sound to travel, but still there are rhythms. There are pulses. There are waves that move across the void, unseen but not unfelt. Space, it turns out, is full of these quiet instruments. And if we learn how to listen, not with ears but with understanding, we can begin to hear them. One such rhythm comes from pulsars, collapsed stars that spin with extraordinary speed and precision. These are the remnants of once massive suns, compressed into spheres no wider than a city, spinning many times each second. As they turn, they emit beams of radiation from their magnetic poles. And when those beams sweep past Earth, we detect them as pulses, like the ticking of a cosmic clock. These pulses are so regular, so reliable, that scientists once considered they might be signals from intelligent life. They are not. They are the soundless ticking of dead stars that still remember motion. Pulsars mark time in deep space. They blink with eerie consistency, sometimes thousands of times per second. Their stability is so great that astronomers can use them to measure tiny changes in space, to detect the influence of gravity or unseen masses. In this way, pulsars are drummers in the dark, laying down a beat so perfect, so patient, that it becomes a foundation for everything else. They are one of the many ways the universe keeps time, not by seconds, but by rotation, by light, by motion too vast for calendars. And what of the planets spinning and circling in silence? They too follow a rhythm. Each orbit is a verse, each rotation a note. The solar system itself is a symphony in motion, slow, measured, gravitationally bound. The planets do not collide, they do not wander, they keep time, they remember their paths. And though we do not hear it, this rhythm shapes everything from seasons to tides to the length of our days. We wake and sleep to Earth's slow rotation. We plant and harvest by the sun's steady climb and fall. Even our inner clocks, the circadian rhythms that govern our thoughts and energy, are tuned to the silent music of the cosmos. It is no coincidence that ancient peoples looked to the skies and found rhythm there. They watched the stars rise and fall. They followed the moon through its phases. They built monuments aligned with solstices, with equinoxes, with eclipses. They were not merely observing. They were listening, listening to a music too large to hold in their hands but small enough to shape their lives. The structures they built, stone circles, temples, pyramids, were not just expressions of awe. They were instruments of alignment, of harmony, of hearing the earth's place in a much larger song. Today, we use machines to listen. Radio telescopes catch faint signals from distant galaxies. Antennae detect bursts of radiation from spinning stars, from black holes feeding on light. We hear the fast radio bursts that come from somewhere far away, brief, mysterious, and powerful. We don't always know what causes them, but we know they are part of the score. And each new discovery adds a note to the melody we are learning to follow. Not a melody in sound, but in data, in pattern, in presence. Even the particles that fly through space carry rhythm. Neutrinos, ghost-like particles that pass through planets as if they were mist, arrive in streams. They move at nearly the speed of light. Trillions pass through your body every second, and yet you never feel them. But detectors buried deep underground, in silence and dark, can catch their fleeting presence. In their arrival is rhythm. In their journey, a trace of the stars where they were born. And light itself, though often described as a straight beam, is a wave. It oscillates, it carries frequency. Color is not just appearance, it is pitch translated for eyes. Red is a slower wave, blue a faster one. Infrared is a whisper, ultraviolet is a flare. Each carries energy, each can be measured, each adds its voice to the silence. In this way, light becomes a song, not one we hear but one we feel, when it warms skin, when it feeds leaves, when it paints the world with sight. We are surrounded by these rhythms, and we are made of them too. Our hearts beat in slow percussion, our breath rises and falls, our neurons fire in patterns, in cycles. Even our DNA, our blueprint of life, is written in repeating sequences, tiny refrains passed from cell to cell. Life at every level moves in loops, in spirals, in beats. The spiral of a shell echoes the spiral of a galaxy. The pulse of a jellyfish echoes the flicker of a quasar. The rise and fall of thought echoes the expansion and contraction of a universe always in motion. And though we speak often of space as cold and vast, it is also incredibly delicate. The music of empty space is subtle. It does not crescendo. It does not climax. It continues softly, like the hum beneath consciousness. It's the murmur of what was and what will be, stitched together in equations and waves. And in listening for it, we are reminded of how much exists beyond noise, beyond words, beyond even sound. In this silence, we can begin to understand something deeper, that we are not separate from the universe's song. We are part of it. Not the solo, not the refrain, but perhaps a harmony, faint, living, essential. And maybe this is why music means so much to us as humans. It reflects something we already know. That rhythm is meaning. That movement is memory. That silence is never truly empty. It is just waiting for its notes to be named. So next time you lie awake and the world is still, imagine this. Even then, space hums. It hums with gravity waves, with background light, with the rise and fall of invisible things. And within you, 1,000 rhythms answer. You are not alone in the dark. You are surrounded by quiet music. And in your heartbeat, your breath, your gaze, you echo it. Now let us return to this quiet music, not as something out there, far from reach, but as something already within us, woven through our cells, our thoughts, our breath. The music of empty space is not a performance that waits for applause. It is not a song with a beginning or an end. It is the quiet architecture of the cosmos, the low, slow pulse of existence itself. It was here before stars were born. It will remain after they fade. And in the meantime, it plays on, steady, eternal, soft as the rustle of distant wind that never needed air to move. Consider the wave. It is one of the most fundamental forms in nature, not limited to the sea or to sound, but found in everything. Light is a wave. Gravity, too, moves in waves. Even particles that we think of as solid, like electrons or protons, behave like waves when we observe them closely. Their position is not fixed. It is smeared across a probability. Their path is not certain, it shimmers with options. This is not imagination, it is physics. And it means the very things we are made of carry rhythm at their core. They do not just exist, they oscillate. Even the atoms in your body are never still. They vibrate, they twist and turn. They resonate with the energy of heat, of light, of memory. If you could zoom in far enough past bone and blood, past molecules and nuclei, you would see motion, trembling, spinning, dancing. Not random, but rhythmic, governed by the same quantum fields that ripple through the vacuum of space. You are, at the smallest level, a composition, notes playing inside a body that walks and dreams and wonders. And when you sleep, your brain continues to pulse. Neurons flash in patterns like stars lighting up the inside of your skull. Brain waves rise and fall, slow in deep sleep, faster in dreaming. These waves are not thoughts, but the conditions that allow thought to form. They are like the hum beneath a melody, the tuning before the song. Even unconscious, your mind keeps time. Even silent, you are never fully quiet. Now think of gravity, not as a force pulling things down, but as a shape, a curve. When a planet moves through space, it does not travel in a straight line. It follows the slope of space itself, shaped by the mass of nearby stars and bodies. In this sense, gravity is like a low drum, keeping beat across eons. When two black holes orbit each other and finally collide, they release their energy not in light, but in a wave, a long, slow, gentle ripple that travels across the universe, through galaxies and nebulae, through empty space, through you. It doesn't shake or tear. It passes like breath, like memory, like a sigh too deep to name. When we detect these gravitational waves, we do not hear them directly. We translate their presence into sound using instruments that record how space itself stretches and compresses. The result is a tone, a chirp, a sound that scientists have learned to interpret. But it is more than sound. It is history arriving. It is the trace of something that happened billions of years ago, reaching us now as a brief, graceful note. A black hole's final embrace. A moment too powerful for light to carry. A dance so massive it bends time itself. And still, this is not all. In between these great movements, there is another hum, so quiet, so constant, that it becomes invisible. Physicists call it vacuum energy. It is the energy of space when nothing else is there. It might be responsible for the expansion of the universe. It might be the breath behind dark energy. We do not yet understand it fully, but we know it's there, like the steady drone beneath a symphony, unnoticed but essential. It doesn't rise or fall. It just is. And in its presence, the universe stretches, moves, grows. This music of space, so different from anything we hear with our ears, is not silent because nothing is happening. It is silent because everything is happening too slowly, too softly, too far apart to notice all at once. Like a forest so vast that each tree sings in a different key, and you must walk for days to hear the change. Like a bell that rings once every billion years, but rings so deeply that when it does, the whole universe sways. This is not a silence of emptiness. It is a silence of magnitude. And yet we are built to respond to it. We find rhythm even in chaos. We create music out of breath, out of movement, out of story. A lullaby is not so different from the wave of a star's light. A heartbeat is not so distant from the orbit of a moon. When we sing, when we drum, when we dance, we are not inventing rhythm. We are remembering it, echoing it. Our music is not separate from the universe. It is its answer. And perhaps this is why music moves us so deeply. Why it can stir emotion without words. Why it can comfort without meaning. Because something in us knows that we are vibrating in the same field, that we are carried by the same waves, that we are not above the music or below it, but inside it, part of it, necessary to it, not as stars or planets, but as listeners, as feelers, as living, breathing instruments tuned to the hum of space. So next time you sit in stillness and it feels too quiet, remember this: you are not alone. You are sitting inside a symphony, a slow, low, endless song that has been playing since the beginning of time. You cannot always hear it, but it moves you just the same. It guides the stars, it shapes the dust, it rings in the silence, and it sings quietly and forever through you. Time surrounds you like water surrounds a fish, everywhere, constant, unnoticed until you stop to feel it. You measure it in hours, in birthdays, in seasons that come and go. You feel it in wrinkles, in memories, in stories that stretch from long ago to just now. But what if time is not what it seems? What if the ticking of clocks and the setting of suns are not the whole truth, but only a shadow, an illusion woven gently into our minds by the rhythms of earth and light? Time may be more fluid, more fragile, more strange than anything we can hold in our hands. And to understand it, we must let go of what we think we know. Imagine waking up in a room without windows, without clocks, without anything to mark the passage of time. How would you know if a minute has passed or an hour? Your body would still keep a rhythm. Your heart would still beat. But without sunlight, without change, your sense of time would begin to stretch or shrink. Days might feel like hours. Hours might drift like dreams. Because time is not just a line moving forward. It is a story we tell ourselves, a shape we give to change. Physicists have long puzzled over time. In the equations that describe our universe, the equations that explain gravity, light, motion, time does not always point in one direction. It works just as well backward as it does forward. In the world of particles, where everything is incredibly small and fast, time loses its edge. Events are reversible. Outcomes can blur. The difference between past and future fades like mist in the morning. So why do we, standing here in the middle of our lives, feel time as a river that only flows one way? The answer may lie in entropy, a measure of disorder, of randomness. The universe tends to move from order to chaos, from low entropy to high. A glass falls and shatters, but the shards do not leap back into place. Smoke rises from a flame, but it does not curl back into the wick. These are not laws written in stone, but patterns written in probability. It's not impossible for things to reverse, it's just incredibly unlikely. And so, from this one rule, the arrow of time emerges. Not from the ticking of a clock, but from the way things change. In this way, time is tied not to motion, but to memory. You remember the past because it is the place where order once was. You anticipate the future because it is where change will unfold. But if you were an electron spinning in the field of a nucleus, you wouldn't know the difference. You would follow the same path either way. Time for you would be a loop, not a line. Only in large systems, in lives, in galaxies, in thoughts, does time take a shape. And even then, it is not always straight. Einstein showed us that time can bend, that it can stretch and shrink depending on speed and gravity. This is not science fiction, it is fact. A clock on a fast-moving spaceship ticks slower than one on Earth. A clock closer to a massive planet ticks slower than one farther away. Astronauts on the International Space Station, moving quickly around Earth, age ever so slightly slower than people on the ground. The effect is small, but it is real. Time is not absolute, it is relative. Now imagine standing near a black hole, an object so dense, so heavy, that it warps space and time like a stone dropped into a pond. As you approach the event horizon where even light cannot escape, time begins to slow. To you, everything feels normal. Your heart still beats, your thoughts still form. But to someone watching from far away, you appear frozen, caught in a moment that never ends. This is not a trick. It is time behaving as it must, shaped by gravity, slowed by mass. The deeper into gravity's well you go, the more time stretches. And what does this mean for us? That time is not a constant drumbeat, but a fabric, flexible, changing, sensitive. It is not a ruler in the sky. It is a field we move through, a fog we shape with our motion and our place in the universe. Two people, living side by side, experience time differently, if only by the smallest amount. And if you were to travel to the edge of a galaxy and return, you might find that decades have passed for your loved ones while only a few years passed for you. This is not fiction. This is what the math tells us. Time is not fair. It does not flow equally for all. But even with all this bending, we still feel time in simple ways. In the warmth of morning light, in the length of a shadow, in the softness of skin that was once small and now is grown. We measure it in photos, in laughter, in losses. We give it shape through calendars and clocks, but what we are really measuring is change. The earth spins, it orbits. The moon moves through phases. Seasons turn. These are not time itself, but the signs it leaves behind. Like footprints in the snow, like ripples in a pond, they point to movement, not to the thing moving. And perhaps this is why time feels so personal. It is not just measured, it is felt. A minute can stretch forever in grief. A year can vanish in joy. Time speeds up as we age, not because it actually moves faster, but because we measure it against a growing memory. When you are 5, a year is a fifth of your life. When you are 50, it is only a sliver. Time is not just a line. It is a perspective, a lens, a mirror. We say time heals, that it flies, that it drags, but really it does none of these things. We heal, we fly, we drag. Time simply reflects what we are. And in this way, it is not separate from us. It is part of our minds, our language, our identity. We are not just beings in time. We are time made visible, time given voice and eyes and memory. We are its witnesses, its record keepers, its storytellers. And in every breath, we shape it further, slowly, gently, without even knowing. So let us pause now, not to stop time, but to feel it. To notice the quiet turning of the earth, the fading of light on the wall, the echo of a word just spoken. These are the marks time leaves as it moves, not loud, not sharp, but steady. And in their steadiness we find something beautiful, not control, but peace, not power, but perspective. Because in the end, time may not be a ruler, but a river. And though we cannot change its course, we can learn to float within it, to feel its current, to trust its flow. Let's drift deeper now into the folds of time, not to measure it, but to feel how it moves, quietly, unpredictably, sometimes with grace, sometimes with weight. Time is not a straight path. It bends around memory. It stretches through emotion. It folds in dreams. You do not walk through time as if through a hallway. You float within it like mist. And what we call now is not a point, but a soft, trembling bubble between what has already changed and what is just beginning. Our minds, designed to keep us alive, organize time into neat patterns, past, present, future. But these lines blur easily. A scent, a song, a sudden silence can carry you back years in an instant. You can relive moments with such clarity that they feel more real than the room you sit in now. This is not illusion. It is how memory stitches time together, not like pages in a book, but like stars in a constellation. Not by order, but by meaning. And then there is dreaming. In dreams, time loses its grip. Hours can pass in minutes. A whole life can bloom and vanish in the space between two heartbeats. You do not dream chronologically. You dream in waves, in loops, in fragments that refuse to sit still. This, too, reveals something deep, that time is not a structure but a sensation, that you do not live only in the present, you shimmer between moments, pulled gently by thought, by feeling, by story. Even in waking life, time is never neutral. It moves differently depending on what you feel. A joyful afternoon disappears in what feels like seconds. A painful night stretches endlessly. Waiting slows time. Wonder softens it. Fear sharpens it. Love bends it. These experiences are real not because clocks change their pace, but because you do. You are not a machine. You are a mirror for time's touch. And still, beyond all this softness, there is something stranger, something revealed by science, by math, by the sky. Time is not the same everywhere. On a mountaintop, time flows just slightly faster than in the valley below. On a speeding airplane, time stretches compared to someone sitting still. These are tiny shifts, imperceptible in daily life but measurable. And they remind us that time is local, not universal. It listens to gravity. It responds to speed. It does not tick the same for all. If you stood at the edge of a black hole, a few minutes there might equal years for someone far away. In theory, you could watch stars race through their lifespans, galaxies spin, the universe change, while for you barely a moment has passed. This is not fantasy. It is a direct result of how gravity shapes time. Mass bends space. Bent space curves time. And curved time means that past, present, and future can stretch apart like strands of silk pulled between fingers. This leads to a startling idea. The past is not gone and the future is not waiting. They already exist in a way we cannot reach. In physics, time is treated as a dimension like length, width, and height. All moments theoretically exist together. They are laid out in the fabric of the universe like frames in a film strip. We move through them one after another, but they are all there. We just don't have the ability to see them all at once. Some scientists believe that time is an illusion, that change is real, but our sense of a flowing now is a trick of consciousness. Others think that time is emergent, not fundamental, that it arises from the interaction of things, not as a separate thread, but as the pattern made by the dance. In this view, time is not a backdrop. It is a consequence, a byproduct of motion, of temperature, of perspective. And yet we live inside it. We plan, we remember, we hope, we fear. Every decision you make is tied to your idea of time, what came before, what comes next, how long something might last. Every relationship is shaped by it, how long you've known someone, how much time you wish you had. Even grief is built from time. It is not just the absence of someone, it is the absence of more time with them. Time, then, is emotional, it is personal, it is a layer of love, of loss, of longing. And in that way it becomes sacred, not as a force but as a companion. It is the shadow that walks beside you, the witness that stays when no one else does. You cannot hold it, but it holds you. You cannot stop it, but it shapes every breath you take. It gives your life structure, not by counting seconds, but by giving them meaning. And what of endings? We speak of time running out, of clocks winding down, of sunsets as symbols of closure. But what truly ends? When a moment passes, it is not destroyed. It is folded into memory. When a life ends, the love remains. When a story is over, the echo continues. Time does not erase. It transforms. It reshapes. And in doing so, it carries forward everything worth remembering. Even the universe, vast and expanding, will face an ending of sorts, not a crash, but a drift. As space stretches, stars will die, light will fade, motion will slow. And one day, far beyond our now, the cosmos may go quiet. But even in that distant stillness, time will not have failed. It will have completed its arc. It will have played its song. And every moment within it, every star born, every hand held, every word spoken, will have mattered. So here you are in your own small stretch of time. A blink in the eye of the cosmos, but a full life in your own story. You cannot slow time. You cannot speed it, but you can meet it with awareness, with gratitude, with care. You can notice its passing without rushing. You can treasure its gifts without clinging. You can dance with it gently, knowing that you are part of something far greater than the ticking of any clock. And maybe in doing that you will find peace, not in time's control, but in its unfolding, in its kindness, in its quiet gift of another morning, another breath, another chance to be fully present in the only time that truly exists, now. Now let us return once more to where time quietly begins and gently ends, not in seconds or hours, but in awareness. We carry time in our bodies. It marks our bones and stretches through our skin. It shapes our memories, our movement, our meaning. And yet, it does not belong to us. It flows around us like a river we are always stepping into, always leaving behind. We do not control its pace, but we can choose how we move within it. Time does not ask for more than that, to be noticed, to be held, to be honored. All around you, time leaves traces. In tree rings that count the passing of years without numbers. In the layers of stone that whisper of oceans long vanished. In the grooves of glacier-scraped valleys and in the soft lines beside your eyes. These are not signs of decay, but of continuity. Time does not take. It records. Every scar, every bloom, every echo is a page in the quiet book of existence, a chapter written in the language of change. We read it not with our eyes, but with our hearts, with the ache of parting, the lift of return, the stillness of waiting. And what we call the future, it too is softer than we imagine. It does not rush toward us like a train on rails. It grows beneath us like grass, silent and unseen, shaped by what we do now. The future is not a place we reach, but a shape we help form. In your words, in your kindness, in your patience. You carry time forward in how you love and how you live. You do not need to predict it. You only need to meet it with care. Think of the people you miss, the ones who live now only in memory. Time has not erased them. It has folded them inward into the quieter rooms of your life. You carry their voices, their gestures, the warmth of their hands not as shadows but as light you still feel. They are not lost in time. They are part of it, etched into the rhythm that still beats beneath your breath. In remembering them, you walk backward through the path of your own heart. You step through moments that do not vanish but wait, whole and glowing, just behind the veil of now. And then there are those yet to come, people who do not yet breathe, who do not yet speak your name. They are shaped by what you choose today, by how gently you move through this world, by how you speak to others. You are writing their history in your presence. Time loops forward not through invention but through continuity, through the love you give that outlives you, through the stories you tell that outlast your voice, through the pauses where you listen, where you wait, where you hold stillness as sacred. There is a kind of grace in not knowing exactly where we are in time's great unfolding, not because we are lost, but because the mystery itself is part of the gift. A flower does not know the calendar, but it blooms when the sun returns. A bird does not measure months, but it knows when to fly. We too carry this quiet intuition, a sense of when to begin again, of when to rest, of when to let go. We are not machines ticking through time. We are tides. We are seasons. We are breath. And when time seems heavy, when the weight of waiting or the sting of change presses too hard, remember that time is also soft. It is not only a clock on the wall, it is the hush between words, the sigh at the end of a day, the warmth of a hand held without needing to speak. In these small, unmeasured moments, time stretches gently. It expands to hold comfort. It slows to hold sorrow. It wraps around you like a shawl, invisible but real. Perhaps this is what time truly is, not a ladder we climb, but a field we wander, some parts wide, some narrow, some blooming with memory, others quiet with possibility. There is no straight path, only the journey of noticing, of feeling, of being fully present in the turning. The more we notice, the more time opens, not in quantity but in depth. A single moment, lived fully, can hold the weight of a lifetime. And so, as the world continues its slow spin, as days slide into nights and back again, let yourself soften into time. Let yourself move gently through it, not racing, not resisting, but walking alongside it as a friend. Feel the way it breathes with you, how it waits, how it teaches, how it holds. You do not need to master time. You only need to meet it, moment by moment, heart by heart, with presence. Because in the end, time is not only what passes, it is what connects. It binds all things, not with chains, but with threads. Threads of memory, threads of meaning, threads of love. And if you follow those threads slowly, patiently, you may find that time is not something to outrun. It is something to return to, again and again, in every breath, in every glance, in every quiet unfolding of now.